Hello everyone, welcome to Stories. Today we're going to talk about a man like no other. Someone who will make you wonder whether what's said about him is fact or fiction. He was the superstar of the 19th century. When he played the violin on stage, everyone lost themselves. People were fainting, crying. Yes, I'm talking about Niccolò Paganini. But today, we're not going to talk about his music. We're going to talk about his dark, chaotic, and mysterious life that everyone was gossiping about. Get ready, because Paganini's life was pure chaos. Paganini was born in 1782 in one of the dark back streets of Genoa, to a family in dire financial straits. His father, Antonio, was a music enthusiast, but also a very strict, authoritarian man. When little Niccolò was just 5 years old, his father shoved a mandolin and then a violin into his hands. And I mean shoved. In the name of discipline, he essentially tortured the boy. If Paganini were here to tell the story, he'd say, "My father would leave me hungry for hours and lock me in my room just to make me practice." The great maestro's teachers, Costa, Rolla, Giardi, the best masters of the era, Paganini developed so quickly that his teachers couldn't believe it. According to one legend, when his teacher Alessandro Rolla heard Paganini play one of his own compositions perfectly on the very first sight read, he stepped aside and said, "I have nothing left to teach you." Paganini played the violin so well that people started saying, "No human can play the violin this well. He must have sold his soul to the devil." Even the church was gossiping behind his back. But Paganini, he ignored it all. In fact, he did everything he could to fuel these rumors. Once the nickname the Devil's Violinist stuck, he embraced it. Those wondering, is there really a curse, scrambled to buy his concert tickets. He was a true genius, but also a brilliant manipulator. Was there something else behind Paganini's magnificent technique besides just hard work? Look, this part is legendary. When Paganini played the violin, he moved his fingers in such a way that those watching whispered that he wasn't human, but a snake. Today, the medical world suggests he may have had genetic conditions like Marfan syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Paganini's finger joints were hyper-flexible. He could spread his fingers across the fingerboard at angles no normal person could ever manage. So, behind that magnificent sound, there was perhaps his own biological difference. But, alas, this flexibility didn't bring him peace. Throughout his life, he struggled with syphilis, tuberculosis, and many other ailments. The heavy, mercury-based medications used at the time only rattled his already fierce nerves even more. He lost his teeth, his face turned pale, he became skin and bones. But here's the interesting part. When he played the violin on stage in that terrifying state, looking like a walking corpse, the audience was even more mesmerized. His illness actually served his demonic image perfectly. It was as if he were dancing with death, and that made him even more attractive, more unattainable. Now, let's get to the real tea. Outside of the stage, Paganini wouldn't stay away from the gambling tables. He would often lose a fortune in a single night at the roulette wheel. There were times when he was penniless, forced to pawn his own violin. He also consumed a great deal of alcohol. He would be composing his timeless masterpieces with one hand and downing glasses of wine with the other. Whenever those around him said, "Niccolò, pull yourself together," he only went further. For him, life was just about the thrill of the moment. And women? That was a whole different story. Paganini's romances were the talk of every capital in Europe. People would ask, which woman could ever say no to his violin or to him? He was linked to many noble women, and scandals never left his side. But the most interesting point of his life was his stormy, turbulent relationship with the singer Antonia Bianchi. They even had a son together, Achille. Just imagine, he was the world's greatest violinist, a gambler, and a father out of wedlock. Considering the conservative society of that era, Paganini was absolutely shattering every rule in the book. As the years passed, his health deteriorated further. Syphilis treatments, heavy drugs, constant coughing up blood, but he still wouldn't give up. Even after he died, the gossip didn't stop. The church said, "He is a sinner, he cannot be buried here." His body was moved from place to place for a long time, unable to be laid to rest. Imagine, even in death, he was right in the middle of a scandal. Paganini wasn't just a musician. He was a rebel who wrote his own story. So, what do you think? Was Paganini a genius or just a clever man who stirred up the right rumors at the right time? Let's meet in the comments. See you in the next story. Stay tuned.